Let's jump right into it. If we talk about the Colorado Rockies for more than 8 minutes, our contract with Yahoo is officially void. So let's try and do our best here, Jordan Shusterman. How did the Rockies do last year? Poorly. What did they do in the offseason? Practically nothing. Who's on their team? I'll go through it. Elias Diaz is their catcher. Chris Bryant is going to play first base, it seems. Brendan Rodgers, former top pick, number 3 overall, is at second. Ryan McMahon at third. Ezekiel Tovar at short. The outfield is Gold Glover Brenton Doyle, and center he is flanked by Nolan Jones, breakout star from last season, in left. And right field's going to be like Sean Bouchard and Sam Hilliard and whomever feels like going out there. Charlie Blackmon is still a Rocky. He is going to be the designated hitter. The pitching rotation, the gentleman signed up to give up just a heap of runs this season is Kyle Freeland, Cal Quantrill, Austin Gomber, Ryan Feltner, and Dakota Hudson. The bullpen has people in it. The one big question about the Colorado Rockies, is this enterprise any different from a year ago? Is there any reason to feel better about the Rockies as a team that tries to win baseball games?
Here's what I think stands out about the Rockies both last year and going into this year. This is a team, a franchise, an organization that has lacked direction in a very severe way for a while now. However, they sunk to new lows in 2023. It was a franchise worse, 103 losses. I know they haven't been around for that long, but that's a lot of losses. And now coming into this year, all the projection systems will tell you this is the worst team in baseball. Now, I don't know if I actually believe they're going to end up with the worst record in baseball, though you could certainly make a case for it, because the problem is, it's like, oh, how do you pitch in Coors? That's true. It is a challenge. However, the talent on the mound has regressed to such a troubling level, and the pitchers that were good have gotten injured to the point where now it's like, well, I can't even like squint and be like, well, maybe this collection of guys will sneak their way to 73, wins. It is so barren, and even though there are reasons to be excited on the offensive side, it's just their hope, let alone what the division looks like, as we'll talk about. It is a hopeless and frustrating endeavor to watch.
And the overarching issue is that this front office, this ownership group, is not incentivized to win. Because shout out to the people of Denver, these fans show up whether the team is good or the team is bad. I believe someone once described Coors Field as a beer garden with a ball field. They put butts in seats and print money, whether they're winning 60 games or whether they're winning 100 games. What that means is ownership has no real reason to reshuffle the front office that has fallen so far behind the curve.
Yeah. And while I agree with what you're getting at, I think the other issue is just how insulated this whole operation has been. And I think that, the Monforts and Bill Schmidt, guys who've been in this organization forever, it's not that they don't want to win. It's that they're existing on, truly isolationist in terms of just the ballpark situation and the context that they're trying to succeed in, but also in just the way they've gone about their business, the way that they've kept everything internal, the way that they haven't advanced just so many of their processes, whether it's analytics, like all these things have just not happened. They have not progressed in the right direction. So I do believe that they are upset about being bad, but they do not seem to have the capabilities to make the changes to do it. And what's frustrating from a neutral observer standpoint is, let alone for Rockies fans, because I remember just being in Colorado for the All-Star game a few years ago, like there are very real Rockies fans. It's not just the people showing up to drink. Like they're real fans of this franchise that are just, it sucks. It's really disappointing and disheartening to know that there's so little hope about how they can kind of get out of this on top of the challenges that already exist, which is why I hope at some point, I don't know how it's going to happen, we do see a front office, an interesting group of front office people try and tackle this in a very creative way. Because thus far, there's just, they haven't given us reason to believe they're gonna find their way out of this.
We had the Rockies 30 out of 30 on our young talent rankings. I would also have them 30 out of 30 if I was ranking like 5-year, 10-year outlook. The combination of a front office that doesn't know what it's doing and a division that's stacked. Like, I just have no faith in this team being a real contender in the years to come. And that includes this season. So let's get to our key players. who are the players that need to get better in order for there to be hope? I'll kick it to you first, Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not even going to touch the pitching because while there are some interesting and talented arms in the minors, like they're so far away from having a competent pitching staff that I just can't take it seriously from that standpoint. However, on offense, I mean, Nolan Jones was one of the best rookies in baseball last year. Like that is a legitimate find, and he is incredible. Like Nolan Jones is awesome. But as far as key players for I trust in Nolan Jones. Like he's proven what he needs to prove, so I'm not worried about him. Ezekiel Tovar, the shortstop, is a lot more interesting. Is he the franchise shortstop? They have some other guys coming up in the system that you could imagine maybe taking that job. Tovar is a very, very good defender. He had some good counting stats that were obviously somewhat Coors related, but he's 22, right? Like if he can develop a little bit more as a hitter and you have an awesome shortstop who can hit, like that's not a bad place to start. I mean, there are a lot of teams that don't, as crazy as it sounds, would love to have Ezekiel Tovar right now. The Dodgers, right? Like there are situations where like this is one example where it's like they have something and they have done a pretty good job scouting hitters and developing hitters, even if you adjust for Coors. So they have that going for them. But again, until they can get outs, it just doesn't matter.
For me, we need to see something on the pitching side. I'm going to go with Cal Quantrill. The Rockies took Nolan Jones last year after the Guardians jettisoned him and turned him into a real good player or helped him blossom. I'm curious if they can do the same thing with Quantrill. Like Quantrill, 2021 and 2022, 336 innings, 54 starts, an ERA plus of 127. He was a very good, very reliable, dependable starting pitcher for the Guardians. He started game 3 of a playoff series. Like this was a real guy, a real piece. He took a huge step backwards this year. Rockies picked him up. I'm curious if they can get anything out of him. Just we've rarely seen the Rockies find like scrap heap pitchers that they have helped get better, right? And the only example is like Daniel Bard, which is such a bizarre case that it's hard to say it's anything repeatable. Let's move on to the thing that makes us laugh. So besides like everything the Rockies do, which is funny, I'm both laughing and crying at Chris Bryant because Chris Bryant's comments over the winter that he, like, I'm paraphrasing here, should have looked more into the Rockies farm system before he signed there or, researched more about the young players they had was like, okay, first of all, dog, like you were advised on the situation and you knew what you were doing when you got into this.
Yeah. I don't think he should have, okay, I'm not saying he should have any regrets. Like the Rockies were offering him an absurd amount of money. Like I understand why he took this contract. Like sometimes this is just how free agency shakes out. I know the story you're referring to that Sam Blum wrote was really interesting. Like Bryant was very reflective on this. And it seems like now he's transitioning to a phase where it's like, and right, is this funny? Is this sad? Is this kind of cool that like he's like, listen, he knows he's already accomplished everything there is to accomplish. He accomplished everything there is to accomplish in baseball in like 3 years. And so now what he wants to do is not be an embarrassment. He wants to be a good baseball player and he wants to enjoy playing. And I've made this comparison before between him and Rendon, right? Like Chris Bryant loves ball. He might know he's about to lose 100 games a bunch over the next, rest of his contract, but he still enjoys playing baseball and wants to prove to everybody, I'm still Chris Bryant. I can still be an all-star, right? The fact that he's now playing first base is like, again, why we were all skeptical of this contract to begin with, but I'm rooting for the guy. I mean, I know it's kind of a weird situation,
but what's funny to me is him being like, man, I should have looked at this apartment before I bought it. There were, it wasn't exactly, there were leaks everywhere and floorboards were creaky.
Again, I don't want to, not that I think Sam's story was great, but I feel like that part of it was not, I understand why that came out because that sentiment was clearly communicated, but I agree. Now I will say conversely, I'll just say the funny part is Charlie Blackmon is just an amazing baseball thing that we have.
Still there.
He's still, for them to bring him back he's making, like they gave him another $13 million. If Charlie Blackmon was a free agent, I mean, look at the market. You think anyone was going to give Charlie Blackmon $13 million? There's no way. And I love Charlie Blackmon, but that is a great example of they were like, we need Charlie Blackmon here because this is an entertainment business. Is the opposite of the Reds keeping Joey Votto around. Because they're like, listen, like we got room for him. He's not that bad, and everybody loves him, and he loves it here. So what's the difference? Let's have Charlie.
He
Blackmon
was like
for
this.
$13 million.
He was like only a little bit better than Votto last year, and he got $13 million. And Votto is going to play for the Buffalo Bisons. Jordan, the over/under for the Rockies is 60.5. What say you?
I'm going over. I know that sounds
me too.
Nuts. Yeah, I'm going over.
Yeah.
Again, they were so bad last year, and they could be even worse this year. But like, I still think the Rockies could fluke their way into 61 wins. 60
is like no wins. That's like so low. I watched a lot of the Orioles, but there were years,
59 last year, and the division is better. So maybe this is stupid, but there you go, Rockies fans. We're ending on a positive note.